my squids, it's your favorite cephalopod, the prize-winning squid here, back with another video. If you're new here, welcome, and if you're returning, welcome back. Little about myself, I'm an intermediate artist who likes to do illustrations and webcomics, and this channel is dedicated to speed paints, gear reviews, some art advice, and a lot of art drama that I like to talk about. So if that interests you, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and that'll make all of my tentacles very happy. With that said, today's video is going to be about AI slop at your local arts and crafts fair. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Dragon Con thing and Renn Fairs. But one thing I also kind of want to add to this video is that I am not a news organization and I'm not a journalist. These are all just my opinions on, whatever goings on or happening out there. And I will tell you, I don't do massive deep dives into every relevant piece of information. That's just not what I do. I get a lot of my same information the way you guys do. I'll view Reddit threads, Discord, Facebook, Blue Sky threads, wherever it's at where I can get the information. I kind of look it over and just talk about it, give my opinion on it. So if you're thinking that you're going to get the exhaustive, in-depth review or talk about a specific topic, I'm not that person. I just hope that you guys enjoy hearing my opinion on whatever the thing is, because I'm telling you, today, yes, a lot of this is just stream of consciousness. So just giving you that kind of, before we dive in. The speed paints for today that you'll be watching are going to be my character from Final Fantasy XIV. Her name is Leira Durune. She is a necromancer, so I have finished Palace of the Dead by myself. I finished Heaven on High. I do love deep dungeons. I've been playing probably for 8 years. I'm not playing right this second because I'm actually just busy doing other stuff. But I started in Heavensward, and then I've been playing ever since. Final Fantasy XIV is probably one of my favorite games of all times, one of my favorite storylines of all times, and has been instrumental in a lot of self-healing, working through a lot of trauma that I've had and a lot of self-worth issues. So I'm very grateful and thankful for the game, regardless of if I ever, participate in playing it again or not. It's literally been the hallmark, and the Final Fantasy series itself has been the hallmark of part of my life. So regardless, I love that game. I love the series. But we're going to look at some of the speed paints. We're not going to look at, well, you will look at, but the speed paints will actually be my character from there. It'll be two versions of her. The first one is going to be a Femro. They're both Gunbreaker, but it's going to be her in Palace of the Dead and then one in Heaven on High. So we're going to have the Finro and then we're going to have the Thylander, because those are the two I usually switch between. With all that said, I'm not going to bore you to tears with more of that talking. Let's get the speed paints on the screen and we will get into the actual topic that we're talking about today. So now that the speed paints are on the screen, like I said, we're going to be talking about AI slop at your local arts and crafts fair, and also Dragon Con and Renn Faire. So we'll start with the Dragon Con piece first, and then we'll go from there because, oh boy. So if you don't know, Dragon Con is a convention that is in Atlanta, Georgia. I believe it's Atlanta, Georgia, and typically has 70 to 80,000 people that, attend every year. It's massive. Lots of cosplay happens down there. You see a lot of just awesome stuff that happens at Dragon Con. And one of the things is, of course, at all conventions, they'll have like an artist alley, vendor tables, so on and so forth. So this year, somebody decided that they were going to bring AI slop. I like to call it AI slop. It's not art. I don't want generative AI. I don't care. It's AI slop. So they brought AI slop to sell in the artist alley. The problem is the reason why they were able to get into the artist alley is because they actually do paint. I found that out later. I thought that originally they were just selling generative AI slop. I learned that they actually do paint. So my mind is blown on why this even is a thing. But one of Dragon Con's policies, and I didn't look deep into their actual document, but I saw that people were talking about it on Reddit. And when I did a cursory look on Google, it does say that Dragon Con has a no AI policy, right? And so these people basically broke that. And so when Dragon Con was alerted that these people had broken that, They were told to leave, and the people didn't leave, and of course the police got involved. So you've probably, if you have looked into it, you've seen exactly everything I've seen, where the table was removed and people started putting signs on the table like this person was kicked out because they are AI slopper and so on and so forth, right? So I'm not going to talk too much about the artists themselves. I'll be honest, when people do this AI slop, they become irrelevant to me. Before that, I will look at their stuff. But if I learn that they are doing that, they become irrelevant to me. I no longer care about what they're doing, their career, anything like that. I just don't care. But I want to talk about seeing that Dragon Con and other bigger cons are now implementing and putting their line in the sand and saying, we do not want AI slop to be sold in our artist alleys and maybe even vendor tables. I can't speak on the vendor table side because I know that some people can sneak the stuff in with like stickers and stuff, but I don't know if specifically the vendors had anything. I know this was an artist alley where this was happening, so that's what I'm going to speak on. But I've been noticing that more and more cons are implementing the no AI kind of policy. I don't know about anybody else who's been removed, and especially not forcibly removed by police. And when I say forcibly, they weren't like, as far as I'm aware, they weren't lifted. They just refused to actually leave until the cops got involved, which I think is hilarious, because if the place that you're vending at, right, is asking you to leave, just leave. You do not, in no way are you going to win this, right? And so that's my mind. Like, you shouldn't even get cops involved in that, you know, that area. So you should just go, just leave. But beyond all of that, the fact that Dragon Con has that policy, the fact that bigger cons that I'm noticing are kind of implementing the same policy, means that people are drawing that line in the sand. And people, it's almost like people realize, like, hey, this actually isn't a good thing. Besides stealing from artists and then people trying to act like they are that artist, or trying to pass off, oh, this is an original from so-and-so, and it's not, right? Besides all of that, the fact is that it's killing the environment, and it's destroying tons and tons of other cities, livelihoods, and just the environmental impact is huge. And then there's the cost to your own electric bills going up if these places are nearby, because they have made deals with local governments for all kinds of things, right? Won't speak on to all of that because I don't have a ton of information about that. I've watched a couple videos, a couple news reports about certain aspects of this, so there is some things that I know and I feel like I know, but won't speak on to all of that. Regardless, we're now seeing that bigger cons are like, hey, this is something that we don't want at our con. It makes us look bad. And we want people who are actual human artists to actually be able to sell to people who want actual human art, right? And so that made me exceptionally happy, because on the flip side, I read a story that somebody went to Renn Faire, and they walked into a tent and saw AI slop in a Renn Faire tent. And let me tell you, when this makes me so sad, because Renn Faire, at its heart, Renn Faire is about human creativity. You go to Renn Faire because you want to hear a mandolin and not, you know, distorted guitars. You go to Renn Faire because whatever you purchase, you know, was either made by that person or somebody that is in that kind of community. You know, you go to Renn Faire because there's going to be blacksmiths who have their wares sitting there, and that's not something you can pop down to Walmart to get, right? You go to Renn Faire because you know Renn Faire is going to give you an actual human experience. And if you go to Renn Faire and you walk into a tent and you realize this is generative AI on a bag, or generative, you know, AI slop on whatever, you realize very, very quickly, like, you are taking the human element out of something that is very, very human based. Like, you go to Renn Fairs because you want to be part of a community, of a human community that yes, we know that, like, technology exists and people are on their phones and there's cameras there and all of that. Nobody is saying you leave all that behind or whatever. But when you get there, like, part of it is kind of forgetting that stuff exists and that you are here in this community and you guys are, you're drinking and you're eating and people are singing and there's all kinds of things going on at Renn Faire, and it feels good. Like you can see things that you would never see on an everyday basis. And to see AI Slop in a tent, you walk in and you think you're gonna actually, buy something that was made by a human, and it's AI Slop, is like the most disheartening feeling, especially going to Renn Faire. I could feel, and it didn't happen to me, so I can't speak on it myself, but reading their post, it was like I could tell the disappointment that was in their voice and in their mind and in their heart of going to this thing that you knew was supposed to be very human and very community based, and then it's not, because somebody decided to go do AI Slop of a frog in armor. These are the things that kind of rub you the wrong way, make you feel like, okay, maybe we shouldn't even have this anymore. Why even do this if we're just going to let machines create the things that we're supposed to bring here ourselves and sell to other people and have a conversation? You're supposed to pick up a piece and you have a conversation about that piece, right? If somebody comes and like, oh my God, I love this dragon goblet that you have. Can you tell me a little bit about it? How did you make it? Where'd you get it from? Or just something, give me something of a story. And people will tell you oh, okay, so me and my husband, we created this in our garage. We have a place that we kind of create these things, and we've been wanting to do this one, and so on. And you get a story from people about the pieces that you're picking up. And yeah, some of the pieces are going to be costly, but that's the point, is that you're getting a story with it. You're getting arguably a unique piece, because chances are you won't find this anywhere else, unless, of course, and this will come later, they're doing drop shipping. But generally speaking, you should be able to pick up something and it's unique for you, right? And you're getting it from this person, you get a story attached to it, and that's kind of why you would go to a Renn Faire. But the idea of you just doing AI Slop crap and then bringing it to Renn Faire, there's no story there. But no one cares that you sat on your couch, eating Doritos or whatever and typing into a computer. That's not a story. No one cares. I do that on my phone. I literally type into my phone when I'm posting a video. I'm like, oh, let me type a caption. That's not a story. That's me posting a stupid video with a caption. There's no story. Now, the things that the video are about could have the story attached, but me actually doing the post, that's not a story. No one cares about that, right? But if you were to tell me, if you were a Fletcher and you were to tell me that you were making all kinds of arrows and bows and this, that, and the other thing, you were telling me about stringing things, and you were giving me kind of a history on long bows and smaller bows and where the crossbow came in, that to me, that is I'm going to buy from you. I'm going to buy a quiver from you. I'm going to buy arrows from you, because that's a story. That tells me 100% that whatever I'm getting from you is going to have something attached. So when somebody comes over and they're like, Squid, where'd you get the bow, the arrow, and the quiver from? Oh man, let me tell you, I went to Renn Faire, and this is what the guy was telling me about the story, and how him and his daughter made these, and how, he's been wanting her to be a really good Fletcher this whole time, and so on and so forth, right? It's supposed to humanize the things that you get, so that they're not overconsumption and it's not mass produced and you can't just pick it up everywhere. You're supposed to be able to look at something and go, I really like that thing. That thing makes me feel really good, but also it's unique. It has a story to it. I can tell somebody else about that story, because ultimately you're telling that person that you got it from, you're also telling their legacy. You're telling their story. You're spreading it on the same way that if you had a new friend and you were like, oh man, let me tell you about what me and my friends did in college, right? Or me and my friends did at work, or me and my friends did in middle school, whatever it might be. You're telling somebody new who wasn't there about people that might not be there right there and then to talk with them, but you're telling them kind of their legacy. You're spreading their story. And that's kind of what the human experience is. That's why AI Slop isn't a story. It's not about the human experience. It doesn't have that. When people say it lacks soul, that's what it lacks. It lacks giving that legacy, that story, that intention to move to the next whatever it might be. The next person, the next, you know, the next artist, the next whoever it might be. So, reading that story, reading the Renn Faire story, reminded me that I've been going to tons of local kind of fairs, festivals, all of that, to where I'm at. And a lot of them have themes. You know, you'll have ones that have either a cultural theme or food theme, an animal theme. There will be different themes. And people, tons of vendors will come out. There will be food trucks, everything. You know what a fair is. You know how festivals and arts and craft shows and all that work. So one of the ones that I recently went to, they had animals there. And what's cool about this is that a lot of the time they will educate you on animals. So you'll be able to actually go out into your local community and you can see a lot of what, you know, you learned at this festival. Except for this time, walking through some of the tents, I realized that they would have pamphlets, right? So they'd have the pamphlets all laid out, and they would have the animals, you know, on the pamphlets, and they would have the animal actually there. So you could look at the pamphlet and, you know, presumably take the pamphlet up, look at it, and then immediately look at the animal and be like, I see exactly what you're talking about, right? Except for when I was looking at some of the pamphlets and some of the other imagery that they had, you know, like the backdrops and stuff like that, I realized that some of this was AI slop. And it got me thinking, they're sitting there and they're telling me, okay, on this animal, you see this pattern and you can be able to identify this animal with this pattern, except for your pamphlet is AI slop. So I can't trust that your pamphlet is actually going to tell me visually the same thing as the real life animal. And I saw this at more than one booth at this festival that was about a specific animal. And I don't know how they did this and didn't see anything wrong with it. And you could see this like every single time when I'd like pick up the pamphlet or I look at, say, like a sticker or something like that, something on these AI slop creations, there would be something that was like wrong. And I'm thinking to myself, how can I look at this and then look at the animal and even tell what I'm supposed to look for on the animal if what you're handing me is completely wrong? And I don't think anybody realized when they were just like quick, I need pamphlets, I don't want to hire anybody. Or even just going to like Shutterstock and buying an image, you know, purchasing an image that somebody went out and they took a photograph of these animals. They actually went and they did the hard work of getting that for you. You didn't even go do that. And so now when I'm looking at your pamphlet is wrong because the animal is sitting right here and what's on the pamphlet does not show what's on the animal because the pamphlet is AI slop. And AI slop cannot get things correct. And we're going to get to why the biggest like telltale for me now, as opposed to things that are like wrong, like hands and feet and stuff like that. We're gonna get to the biggest telltale for me and why animals are very, very tricky for AI to even try to replicate, and I'll explain why. But as I'm kind of just venturing in this festival, I see a vendor that I've seen them at other festivals before. There's somebody that I've wanted to purchase things from previously, was short on cash, or maybe they had stuff that I was like, man, I would like to get this. Either don't have a place to put it, or maybe I'm in the middle of like assembling something else, and this would be perfect at the tail end of that. And I don't want to get it right now and just have it because I don't know when I'm going to be done with whatever, right? You know how it is, how you go to a place and you might not know that you need to purchase this thing right now because they might not have it later, or you're like, I don't know when I'm going to actually finish the thing that I'm doing, right? We all have that. So I walk up and it's the perfect vendor, perfect shop for me, because a lot of people don't know, of course, my family grew up in one type of religion, but I discovered paganism very, very early on and became enthralled. And so while I might not be religious anymore, and when I say spiritual, it's not really spiritual. It's more of just like, be good, be a good person, take care of the earth, take care of others, take care of animals, and just realize that the cosmos has you, and you're part of the cosmos, and you're made of star stuff. And like, just be good, put good karma and good energy out into the world. I still really, really love things like either iconography or beliefs that are pagan beliefs. And so this, of course, is a shop that I love. You know, they have a lot of things that I would love that are in that vein. So I walk up, and of course I'm seeing, seeing bags, and I'm seeing dream catchers, and I'm seeing trees of life that are kind of woven, all kinds of other things that are there, right? And most of this stuff is the physical stuff. So, somebody had to have made it, or if somebody didn't make it, there was somebody who programmed a machine to do it, right? So it's not crochet, but it's weaving and some other things. So there's ways that, a machine can do it, but a human actually has to like tell it how to do everything and input a bunch of stuff. And it's not just you typed a prompt and the thing showed up, right? So I walk in and I'm looking around, and they've had stuff that I absolutely love. They've had, laser engravings, they've had wood burning, they've had all kinds of things that I absolutely love. I'm looking at some of the mugs, and I'm looking at some other stuff. And so I get kind of to the front, and they're sitting there, and, it's the standard greetings, whatever. And I'm looking at something, and I kind of turn to look at the stickers. And I realize these are AI Slop. I can see AI Slop in these stickers, and where all these stickers are, there's AI Slop. Now there might be some that are drawn by hand, and they did whatever, but there's AI Slop in these stickers. And so I start turning to kind of like look and scan everything else, and then that's when I realized that they had like posters that had supposedly iridescent animals on them. And I'm studying those, and I realize that those are AI Slop. And so I start stepping back, and I'm looking back and forth, and then that's when I realize there are many things, like the bags that have printing on them, and other things that I had not when I was walking up. Because mind you, I've seen these people multiple times before this, and I've never once seen AI Slop at their booth. And I think it's because AI Slop had not gotten to the point now where you could almost reliably pass it off for some of the simpler stuff without people going, hold on, right? Except there is a telltale, and I've been trying to figure out how to explain this to other people, and I think I now finally have it. And it's because of a video game. So I'm gonna take a step back really quick and say, I'm not giving spoilers or anything like that, but if you've played the game Clair Obscur Expedition 33, I did not know that its title, Clair Obscur, was an actual art term. I also didn't know that there's a French term for it. I don't know how to say that term. I'm not going to act like I know how to say that term. I don't even know if Clair Obscur, that term itself, is the actual art term. I know that people say it's the approximate. So I don't know if they're talking about the French one, English one, whatever. But the idea of it is very high contrast, is that in your piece you have very, very high contrastal values, right? You're going to have the deepest blacks and the brightest whites. And so when I heard that, and I read that, because I was like, I want to know what this term even means, right? And I started looking. The first thing that kind of like popped into my head when I read the term was one of those Renaissance paintings that has like deep blacks in the background, and then somebody is shrouded in white with like a sword, and the sword is gleaming, and like all of this. That is immediately where my mind went. And by my cursory kind of like Googling, that essentially is kind of what it is. And then I started realizing AI Slop applies this technique, but it applies it wrong because it doesn't understand anything. I mean, first, it can't think, so that's not what it's doing, right? And it doesn't do anything with intention, and the person who's prompting doesn't know how to do anything or force it to do anything with intention. So it just randomly picks and chooses things to generate per pixel, right? So when you're looking at something that's iridescent, the brain knows how iridescence should look, right? Like humans know how it should look. AI doesn't understand how to make something iridescent or even stained glass. So what it ends up doing is it ends up having these really, really dark areas and these really, really bright areas out of nowhere for like no reason. Nothing else around them has any of this in there. It just doesn't know how to do iridescence. And it dawned on me, that's what it is. It literally doesn't know how to do this clear obscure thing. And so I've been trying to explain that's how when I'm looking at something and I go, this looks like AI, but somebody else will be like, I can't really tell. There's not something. That's what it is. It'll be on humans. It'll be things like the hair, like there are parts of the hair that is just entirely too dark for what else is being lit up. Or, and I used to say this before, like the rim lighting on things will just be, it'll be too much. But if the rim lighting is too much on that side, that means the light would be brighter on other parts and the light isn't as bright on these other parts, and it doesn't make sense, right? Because we know that these people don't have, like AI can't think of like a 3-point kind of light system. It doesn't think in 3 dimensions. It's just stealing from different areas and then just trying to write it line by line. But that's what it is. I've been trying to figure out this whole time what it is, and that's 100% what it is. So I'm looking at the iridescent dragonfly, and it just dawned on me, like that's what it is. That's AI slop. So I start looking at other stuff, and then you start doing that thing where you kind of back away. Like this is a one-day event, and I'll get to that in a second. This is a one-day event. I'm not going to raise a stink right now because it's probably like 2 hours before these people will pack up and leave, and I'm going to just back up. And I'm looking at stuff, and then that's when I realized that things like the dream catchers and the trees of life, while they look like they might be done by hand, I'm realizing now that these are probably drop shipped from like Temu. And that the dresses and stuff, probably the same thing. They might be drop shipped. Which really, really bothers me because there had been stuff in the previous years that looked very unique to this vendor. And I was literally blown away by what I was seeing. And so that got me to thinking on a broader scale, right? So I want to come back to the one-day thing. There's a couple things I want to come back to, but I want to come back to the one-day thing first. So with the Dragon Con thing, where you have multiple days where people who are doing AI either aren't supposed to be there or will get kicked out when somebody finds out they are there, there's a potential of you losing tons of money, right? But when you have a one-day event, or you have even a small 2-day event that is, in the middle of a city park or whatever, like a suburbs park or something like that, people are more likely to try to infiltrate that as an AI slopper. Because what's the event organizer going to do? The event organizer is going to be like, they're going to pack up before 5 anyway. We're not going to kick them out when they're going to pack up before 5. Like, I'm not going to do that. Whereas, if you have the multi-day thing, they're more likely to kick people out. Now, with the Dragon Con thing, I did read that it was on the last day of Dragon Con that the people got kicked out, but still, the point still stands that bigger conventions at least have the policies and look like they're trying to draw a line in the sand and protect human artists, which I am grateful for, right? But smaller events might not have that. They might not want to do that type of vetting. They might not even have the ability to do that type of vetting. Like bigger events will have people on staff where that is going to be their job, right? But smaller events, like one of these local arts and crafts shows, won't have people on staff for that because, let's be honest, that's a lot of ask, for somebody to go through however many vendors. Even if it's 20 vendors, you would still need to go through all of their social media to see if they've done anything and if they're bringing any of this to your event, right? So that's a lot of ask for these smaller events. I could see AI sloppers trying to go to smaller events, and so you walk in there thinking, oh man, I really love A, B, C, and D, and no, what you're getting is somebody who's an AI slopper who then drop shipped any of their physicals. So they didn't make anything by hand. Even if and here's my thing, even if it's one of those places where you're like, well, I know they didn't make everything by hand, they can't make everything by hand, but nothing there is made by them, or it's somebody who got their first 3D printer and now they have a ton of 3D printed Pikachus and random dragons and these other random things that you see on everybody's table who has a 3D printer, and they're just purchasing just the, you know, the 3D print whatever's, and they're just 3D printing just galore, and there's no real thought, soul, or purpose or intention put into anything that they're doing. You start seeing this at your, I don't know, I had so much zest with this, but you start seeing this at all of your you know, festivities, all of your local fairs, and especially like the arts and crafts fairs. Like, you start seeing this type of stuff everywhere. And then when you go, it's almost like the Funko Pop thing. It's like you go to a con and all you see is like, if it's vendors everywhere, it's just walls of Funko Pops. And it's like, what happened to the figurines? What happened to the real collectibles? The things that actually, you know, look kind of cool. You could take them out of the box and you could actually give them to a kid and play with them. Whereas like you just see walls of like Funko Pops everywhere. So what happened to that, you know? And so you'll start seeing these, I can't say this to save my life, but you start seeing this everywhere. And I'm just like, is this going to be the future of like local arts and crafts fairs? Is it going to be these people who drop ship and AI slop everything because they can't get into bigger conventions where artists, and arguably you go to a convention as an artist and you want to make some money, but we all know you're not going to turn a massive profit. If you turn a profit at all, a lot of the time it's you're going to lose money, and part of it is hopefully that these people who walk past you or grabbed a card or something will come back to your store, wherever your shop is, your Patreon, whatever you have, your coffee, you know, whatever you have, your website, and get something from you there or interact with you there, and then you can continue the sale. Like, that's hopefully the goal if you go to a con, if you don't make a ton of money, right? Some people are very, very good at doing the con circuit and making money at the con. But I will say that if you go, you probably won't make a ton of money. You will probably lose money, but hopefully you make connections and you actually get customers who will keep coming back at your normal shop and all that. And that helps you make ends meet. But beyond all of that, with the one-day thing, you could see AI sloppers going that route. But then it was the drop ships. It was realizing that, honestly, if you go to an arts and crafts fair, the only thing that you might be able to guarantee was made by hand on the table is crochet. So if you see somebody who has anything crochet related, that is the only thing that you can guarantee was made by hand. Everything else, you wouldn't be able to guarantee was made by hand. Because I don't think that machines can crochet yet. If they can, somebody correct me in the comments, but I'm pretty sure they can't. But beyond that, if you go to any of these smaller events, and you can't trust anything anymore. You can't trust the process, because with the Dragon Con person, they painted. They actually painted. They had originals that were there that they were selling alongside the AI slop. So it's like, can you even trust that? It's a sad prospect. I don't know where I wanted to go with all of this, to be honest. It's almost like too much. It's almost like, on one hand, big cons are going to try to protect human artists and human vendors, right, as much as possible. They're not perfect, and there's going to be a lot of things that kind of slip through the cracks. But I could see smaller events end up being host for a lot of AI sloppers because they know that it's a one-day event. These people aren't going to check as much, or they can't check as much, or they just wanted to get people in the door, so they're just glad another vendor signed up. Like, there's going to be a lot of that. And that's heartbreaking, and it's kind of depressing. But the good part of it is that if you do see these kind of people, that you can very readily say, hey, I don't like that you have this kind of stuff here, and I'm going to leave. And even if, you know, you don't have to make a big to-do or whatever, but letting people know why you're not purchasing from them, I mean, it can get people to change their minds about the things that they're doing and the apps that they're using. If they know, okay, well, people aren't going to purchase from my shop anymore because they know I'm doing AI slop. I should probably invest in a pencil and some paper to learn how to actually draw. That might actually be something that kind of turns the tide, or at least makes it so these people no longer come to these venues, no longer can come to these events because they know that they won't make sales. Now, it's not a foolproof, plan, and I'm not saying go out and attack anybody at all. Do not do that. But like, if you vote with your wallet, like we always say, vote with your wallet. If you're able to vote with your wallet, but then, if somebody is like, oh, I thought you were going to purchase that. Well, I'm not because, and you tell them why, that hopefully will get in the minds of people that we got to get away from, using AI for all of this stuff. But beyond that, I mean, hopefully more human-based and human-centric things become like the forefront of, a lot of these events, because let's be real, these are supposed to be about community. And if you're going and it's obvious that this person didn't put any intention, had no soul, no heart behind what it is that they're trying to get you to buy, like, why are they there, right? Anyway, I appreciate you guys watching this video and listening to me ramble for however long it's been. I am the prize-winning Squid. You guys can find me on my website, artbytheprizewinningsquid.com. I am also on Blue Sky, which is the PW Squid or the prize-winning Squid. I can't remember which one is shortened and which one is not. You can find me on Blue Sky. You can find me on Threads, which is linked to my Instagram, which is the prize-winning Squid. I'm also on Facebook, the prize-winning Squid on there, and of course YouTube. So you guys are watching this here today. So please subscribe if you guys enjoy this video or you enjoy any of my other videos. I do have other videos coming. I do post videos on the first and the last Friday of every month. And then my webcomic, it's called Talia. It's on Global Comics and Webtoons. And it is about a magical zoologist who is on the run for a murder she didn't commit. And the assassins that are after her were sent by her estranged father. So that man got beef with her. So you guys can read that on Global Comics and Webtoons. And it's also on my website if you guys are interested in that. I post that on the last Friday of every month as well. Anyway, I am out of here. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, good rest of your week, your month, and even your year. And if I don't see you for the rest of your life, I hope you have a good lifetime as well. I'm out of here. Take care. Be safe. And I will see you guys next time.